Harold said, I'm Harold, and this is my wife Denise. We've been married for 60 years, and before you click away or skip ahead, there's something you need to hear. What we're about to share is what we wish someone had told us on our wedding day in 1960. These aren't little lessons. These are the mistakes that nearly tore us apart. And if you're in a relationship, or even thinking about one, this matters. Denise added, when Harold says nearly, he means it. There were long stretches of our life where I honestly didn't know if we'd reach the next anniversary. People look at us now, sitting side by side after 60 years, and assume it was always easy. They think we figured everything out early. We didn't. We made choices that cost us time, closeness, and moments we can never get back. But we learned, and that's why we're here. Harold continued, mistake number 1 was keeping score. For the first 15 years of our marriage, I kept a silent tally in my head. I took out the trash, mowed the lawn, fixed what broke. And every time Denise asked for help with something else, I'd think, what about everything I already do? I never said it outright, but she could feel it. The resentment sat between us like a wall. Denise said, and I had my own tally. I cooked every meal, raised our 3 children, managed their schedules, stayed up through sickness, cleaned the house, kept everything running, remembered every birthday and anniversary for both sides of the family. When Harold came home and talked about how tired he was, I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just added it to my list, the list that told me I was doing more, caring more, trying harder. Harold admitted, that mindset poisoned us, because marriage isn't a transaction. It isn't about splitting everything exactly in half. Some seasons, one person carries more. When I was injured in 1983 and couldn't work for 4 months, Denise carried everything. She worked double shifts as a nurse, came home, cared for me, cared for the kids. There was no scorekeeping then, and years later, when she faced her own health struggles, I carried more. But before we learned that, we wasted years measuring and comparing, letting resentment grow over who sacrificed more. Denise shared, things shifted when our oldest daughter said something that shook me. She was around 30, struggling in her own marriage, and she asked, Mom, do you and Dad even like each other? It broke my heart, because I knew we loved each other, but somewhere along the way, we became so focused on fairness that we forgot how to be a team. I didn't stop counting all at once, but slowly, I let it go, and Harold did too. Harold went on. Mistake number 2 was believing you can change each other. Denise has always been a planner. Lists, schedules, knowing what's happening weeks ahead gives her peace. I've always been more spontaneous, more go with the For years, really decades, we fought about it. She was frustrated that I wouldn't commit to plans, and I was frustrated that she couldn't just relax. Denise said, I truly believed that if I explained it better or got upset enough, Harold would finally change. I'd ask, why can't you just be more organized? And he'd say, why can't you just loosen up? We were trying to turn each other into different people, and it never works. It only makes both people feel inadequate and unseen. Harold concluded. What finally changed was realizing that Denise's planning isn't a flaw, it's how she feels safe in the world. And my spontaneity isn't irresponsibility, it's how I find joy. We had to stop treating our differences like problems to fix and start seeing them as strengths we could learn to live with. Now Denise plans our bigger trips, manages the finances, and keeps track of our calendar. And I surprise her with small, unplanned things, quick day drives, unexpected flowers, moments she never saw coming. And instead of clashing, we finally complement each other. Denise said, mistake number 3 was staying silent about hard things until they exploded, and I was very guilty of this. I let small annoyances and quiet hurts stack up because I didn't want to start an argument. I told myself it wasn't worth it, that I should just let it go. But nothing really goes away. It stays inside, building pressure, until something tiny triggers an outburst and suddenly you're upset about things that happened months ago. Harold said, I remember one time in the early 2000s when Denise completely lost her temper because I forgot to buy milk, just milk, and suddenly she was yelling about how I never listen and how I always forget. I stood there confused, thinking this can't really be about milk, and of course, it wasn't. It was about 6 months of feeling unheard, and the milk was just the last straw. Denise added, if I had spoken up earlier and calmly said, when you forget the things I ask, it makes me feel like my time doesn't matter. We could have talked it through, but instead, I stayed quiet until I couldn't. And then it came out sounding like an attack, and that fixes nothing, Harold said. We learned to speak up sooner, not with anger, but with honesty, saying things like, this bothered me. Can we talk about it? It feels uncomfortable at first, but it's far better than letting resentment grow. Hard conversations don't have to be fights. They can just be conversations. Denise continued. Mistake number 4 was treating our marriage like it could run on autopilot. After about 25 years, we slipped into a routine. We knew each other so well and had been through so much that we assumed the relationship would just hold itself together. We stopped dating each other and stopped talking about anything beyond logistics, like groceries, appointments, and bills. And without realizing it, we became roommates who occasionally shared a bed. Harold said, the scariest part is how slowly it happened. There wasn't a clear moment where we chose to stop trying. It just faded little by little, the romance, the curiosity, the effort, until comfort turned into complacency. Denise said, what woke us up was watching close friends divorce after 38 years. Everyone was shocked because they seemed fine, but later she told me they had been fine. Not happy, not connected, just existing side by side. And one day she realized she didn't want to spend the rest of her life that way, and that thought terrified me. Harold said, so we changed things. We started eating dinner together at the table instead of in front of the television, asking each other real questions, again like what's been on your mind or what made you smile this week. And we started taking short evening walks together, just 20 minutes, but it was time that belonged to us. Denise said, we also brought back date nights. Nothing fancy, just intentional. Sometimes it's getting ice cream and sitting in the car talking. Sometimes it's playing cards at the kitchen table. But it's time focused on us, not on chores or responsibilities, because a marriage needs attention and care, and it won't thrive if you ignore it. Harold said, mistake number 5 was forgetting that we were on the same team. During arguments, especially in the middle years, it felt like we were opponents trying to win, to prove who was right and who was wrong, turning every disagreement into a battle, and battles always create winners and losers. Denise said, but marriage doesn't work that way, because if one person wins and the other loses, you both lose, since you're meant to be partners, moving through life together, not competitors trying to defeat each other. Harold continued,